The farmstead had been empty for years, its silence a chilling testament to the terror that had once gripped its previous inhabitants. Abandoned and forgotten, the once vibrant property now stood as a ghostly relic of fear, its windows dark and its doors creaking with the weight of untold horrors. The wind whispered through the cracks in the walls, carrying faint echoes of screams and despair. I, the skinwalker, had watched over this desolate place, my malevolent presence lingering in the shadows. The farmstead was my domain, a perfect trap for those unfortunate enough to cross its threshold. I reveled in the eerie stillness, my sinister anticipation growing with each passing day. My patience was finally rewarded when the Thompson family arrived. Fresh, unsuspecting souls, they were blissfully unaware of the malevolent force that awaited them. Their laughter and hope as they moved into the dilapidated house were like a sweet melody, a stark contrast to the impending doom that hovered just beyond their perception. They did not see the shadows deepening or feel the oppressive weight of the air around them. The children played in the overgrown yard, their innocence a stark contrast to the darkness that lurked just out of sight. The parents, full of dreams and plans, went about restoring the old farmstead, oblivious to the sinister eyes watching their every move. They were ripe for the taking, their ignorance feeding my insidious hunger. Night fell, cloaking the farmstead in darkness. The familiar silence returned, thick and suffocating. It was then that I began my work, weaving my way into their dreams, planting seeds of fear that would soon blossom into terror. The shadows grew longer, my presence more palpable with each passing hour. The Thompsons, blissfully unaware of the true nature of the farmstead, were now my prey. The farmstead, once a symbol of hope and renewal for them, would soon become their nightmare, a place where the echoes of their fear would join those of the past inhabitants. The terror that once gripped this place was far from over, it was only just beginning. The first night, I decided to introduce myself subtly. As Sarah lay in bed, I made my way to the attic, my footsteps resonating through the old wooden beams. Her fear was palpable, even from a distance. John investigated but found nothing, dismissing her concerns with a reassuring smile. How naive! I took one of their chickens the next morning, leaving no trace but a few feathers. Lily saw me that day, a dark figure in the barn, and I could smell her fear. I knew then that she would be the first to break. Taking the form of Mr. Blackwood, a kindly old man from the village, I approached the family. I wove tales of the farmstead's dark history, planting seeds of dread. John tried to brush off my warnings, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. That night, I made my presence more known. I opened the barn doors and watched as their livestock panicked. Sarah saw me in my raven form, my eyes glowing with unnatural light. Her terror was delicious, and I knew it would only grow. As the days passed, I increased my torment. I whispered their fears back to them in the dead of night, shifted into shadows that danced on their walls, and took the forms of loved ones lost. Lily and Jake were particularly susceptible. Their young minds could not fathom the horrors they saw. One evening, as John investigated the barn, I revealed myself in my true form, a grotesque demon with tattered wings. His face contorted in fear and realization. He knew then that there was no escape. The family huddled together in the house, clutching at their last hopes. I circled them, whispering their darkest fears. The talismans they held glowed faintly, a pitiful attempt at protection. Their prayers were futile against my ancient power. John tried to be brave, but his fear was evident. I mocked their efforts, shifting into the form of his deceased mother, then back into my demonic visage. Their unity began to crumble as despair set in. Lily, in a final act of defiance, confronted me. "You can't scare us," she declared. Her voice was steady, but I could taste the fear beneath her words. I laughed, a sound that echoed through the house like a death knell. Their fear reached its peak, and I knew it was time to end the game. I attacked with a ferocity they could not withstand. John was the first to fall, his attempts to protect his family utterly in vain. Sarah followed, her screams a sweet symphony to my ears. Lily and Jake tried to run, but there was no escape. I took my time with them, savoring their terror and despair. When it was over, the house was silent once more, filled only with the echoes of their last moments. I left the farmstead as I had found it, empty, silent, a monument to my power. The village would whisper of the Thompsons' fate, and fear would spread like a contagion. My hunger sated, I retreated into the shadows, waiting for the next unwitting souls to cross my path. The legend of the Skin Walker grew, and I reveled in the terror it inspired. I was eternal, an unending nightmare that thrived on the darkness within every human heart. And so, I waited, patient and ever watchful, for the next chapter in my endless reign of fear.